Chapter 6 today, guys. Wearing my honorary KU Final Four hat because if it weren't for the COVID, we'd be desperately in the midst of the Final Four season, the greatest sporting season of the year, other than possibly the Tour de France. But we don't have it, so I just have to carry my hat around and remind myself. Got us a hell of a read today. Chapter 6, Circus Circus. We all love Circus Circus. Before we get going, I think in honor of the good doc, I can have a little double espresso. Perhaps something horrible nicked from a stepdaughter's stash. Hopefully she won't miss it. Ugh, that shit's sweet. For later, I'll introduce you to my little friend. Mr. Gummy. Say hi, Mr. Gummy. Say hi. Come back to you in a bit. All right. Let's find us some chapter 6 here. Night on the town. Confrontation at the Desert Inn. Drug frenzy at the Circus Circus. Saturday, midnight. Memories of this night are extremely hazy. All I have for guide pegs is a pocket full of Keno cards and cocktail napkins all covered with scribbled notes. Here's one. Get the Ford man. Demand a Bronco for the race observation purposes. Photos? La Serra. Call. Why not a helicopter? Get on the phone. Lean on the fuckers. Another says, sign on Paradise Boulevard. Stopless and topless. Bush League sex compared to L.A. Pasties here. Totally naked public humping in L.A. Las Vegas is a society of armed masturbators. Gambling is the kicker here. Sex, extra. A weird trip for high rollers. House whores for winners. Hand jobs for the bad luck crowd. A long time ago, when I lived in Big Sur down the road from Lionel Olay, I had a friend who liked to go to Reno for the crap shooting. He owned a sporting goods store in Carmel. And one month he drove his Mercedes highway cruiser to Reno on 3 consecutive weekends, winning heavily each time. After 3 trips, he was something like $15,000 ahead. So he decided to skip the 4th weekend and take some friends to dinner at the Nepenthe. Always quit as a winner, he explained. And besides, it's a long drive. On Monday morning, he got a phone call from Reno, from the general manager of the casino he'd been working out on. We missed you this weekend, said the GM. The pitmen were bored. Shucks, said my friend. So next weekend, he flew up to Reno on a private plane with a friend and 2 girls, all special guests of the GM. Nothing too good for some high rollers. And on Monday morning, the same plane, the casino's plane, flew him back to the Monterey airport. The pilot lent him a dime to call a friend for a ride to Carmel. He was $30,000 in debt. And 2 months later, he was looking down the barrel of one of the world's heaviest collection agencies. So he sold his store, but that didn't make the nut. They could wait for the rest, he said, but then he got stomped, which convinced him that maybe he'd be better off borrowing enough money to pay the whole wad. Mainline gambling is a very heavy business, and Las Vegas makes Reno seem like your friendly neighborhood grocery store. For a loser, Las Vegas is the meanest town on earth. Until about a year ago, there was a giant billboard on the outskirts of Las Vegas saying, "Don't gamble with marijuana. In Nevada, possession, 20 years. Sale, life." So I was not entirely at ease drifting around the casinos on this Saturday night with a car full of marijuana and a head full of acid. We had several narrow escapes. At one point I tried to drive the Great Red Shark into the laundry room of the Landmark Hotel, but the door was too narrow and the people inside seemed dangerously excited. So we drove over to the Desert Inn to catch Debbie Reynolds, the Henry James show. I don't know about you, said my attorney, but in my line of business it's important to be hep. Mine too, he said. But as your attorney, I advise you to drive over to the Tropicana and pick up on Guy Lombardo. He's in the Blue Room with his Royal Canadians." "Why?" I asked. "Why what?" "Why should I pay out my hard-earned dollars to watch a fucking corpse?" "Look," he said, "why are we out here? To entertain ourselves or to do the job?" "Well, the job, of course," I replied. We were driving around in circles, weaving through the parking lot of a place I thought was the Dunes, but it turned out to be the Thunderbird. Or maybe the Hacienda. My attorney was scanning the Vegas visitor, looking for hints of action. "Well, how about Nickel Nick's Slot Arcade?" he said. "Hot slots? That sounds heavy. 29-cent hot dogs?" Suddenly, people were screaming at us. We were in trouble. Two thugs wearing gold military overcoats were looming over the hood. "What the hell are you doing?" one screamed. "You can't park here." "Well, why not?" I said. It seemed like a reasonable place to park. Plenty of space. I've been looking for a parking spot for what seemed like a very long time. Too long. It was about to ready to abandon the car and call for a taxi, but then here we found this space, which turned out to be the sidewalk in front of the main entrance of the Desert Inn. I'd run over so many curbs by this time that I hadn't even noticed this last one. But now we found ourselves in a position that was hard to explain, blocking the entrance. Thugs yelling at us, bad confusion. My attorney was out of the car in a flash, waving a $5 bill. "We want this car parked. I'm an old friend of Debbie's. I used to romp with her." For a moment, I thought he'd blown it. Then one of the doormen reached out for the bill, saying, Okay, I'll take care of it, sir." And he tore off a parking stub. "Holy shit," I said as we hurried through the lobby. "They almost had us there. That was quick thinking." "Well, what do you expect?" he said. "I'm your attorney. And you owe me $5. I want it now." I shrugged and gave him a bill. This garish, deep Orlon carpeted lobby of the Desert Inn seemed to be an inappropriate place to be haggling about nickel-dime bribes for the parking lot attendant. This was Bob Hope's turf, Frank Sinatra's, Spiro Agnew's. The lobby fairly reeked of high-grade formica and plastic palm trees. It was clearly a high-class refuge for the big spenders. We approached the grand ballroom full of confidence, but they refused to let us in. "We were too late," said the man in a wine-colored tuxedo. "The house was already full. No seats left, not at any price." "Fuck seats," said my attorney. "We're old friends of Debbie's. We drove all the way from L.A. for this show, and we're goddamn well going in." The tux man began jabbering about fire regulations, but my attorney refused to listen. Finally, after a lot of bad noise, he let us in for nothing, provided we would stand quietly in back and not smoke. We promised, but the moment we got inside, we lost control. The tension had been too great. Debbie Reynolds was yucking across the stage in a silver afro wig to the tune of Sergeant Pepper from the Golden Trumpet of Harry James. "Jesus creeping shit," said my attorney. "We've wandered into a time capsule." Heavy hands grabbed our shoulders. I jammed the hash pipe back into my pocket just in time. We were dragged across the lobby and held against the front door by goons until our car was fetched up. "Okay, get lost," said the wine tux man. "We're giving you a break. If Debbie has friends like you guys, she's in worse trouble than I thought." "We'll see about this," my attorney shouted as we drove away. "You paranoid scum." I drove around to the Circus Casino and parked near the back door. "This is the place," I said. "They'll never fuck with us here." "Well, where's the ether?" said my attorney. This mescaline isn't working." I gave him the key to the trunk while I hit up the hash pipe. He came back with the ether bottle, uncapped it, then poured some into a Kleenex and mashed it up under his nose, breathing heavily. I soaked another Kleenex and fouled my own nose. The smell was overwhelming, even with the top down. Soon we were staggering up the stairs toward the entrance, laughing stupidly and dragging each other along like drunks. This is the main advantage of ether. It makes you behave like the village drunkard in some early Irish novel. Total loss of all basic motor skills. Blurred vision, no balance, numb tongue, severance of all connection between the body and the brain. Which is interesting because the brain continues to function more or less normally. You can actually watch yourself behaving in this terrible way, but you can't control it. You approach the turnstiles leading into the circus, and you know that when you get there, you have to give the man $2 or he won't let you inside. But when you get there, everything goes wrong. You misjudge the distance to the turnstile and slam into it. Bounce off and grab hold of an old woman to keep from falling. Some angry Rotarian shoves you and you think, what's happening here? What's going on? Then you hear yourself mumbling, dogs fucked the Pope. Don't fall to mine. Watch out. My money. My name is Brinks. I was born. Get sheep oversight. Women and children to armor car. Orders from Captain Zeep. Ah, devil ether. A total body drug. The mind recoils in horror, unable to communicate with the spinal column. The hands flap crazily, unable to get money out of the pocket. Garbled laughter and hissing from the mouth. Always smiling. Ether is the perfect drug for Las Vegas. In this town, they love a drunk. Fresh meat. So they put us through the turnstiles and turned us loose inside. The circus is what the whole HEP world would be doing on Saturday night if the Nazis had won the war. This is the Sixth Reich. The ground floor is full of gambling tables like all the other casinos, but the place is about 4 stories high, in a style of a giant circus tent, and all manner of strange county fair Polish carnival madness is going on up in this space. Right above the gambling tables, the 40 flying Carazato brothers are doing high-wire trapeze set, along with 4 muzzled wolverines and 6 nymphette sisters from San Diego. So you're down on the main floor playing blackjack and the stakes are getting high when suddenly you can't chance but look up, and there, right smack above your head, is a half-naked 14-year-old girl being chased through the air by snarling wolverine, which is suddenly locked in a death battle with 2 silver-painted Polacks who come swinging down from opposite balconies and meet in midair on the wolverine's neck. Both Polacks seize the animal as they fall straight down towards the crap table, but they bounce off the net. They separate and spring back up towards the roof in 3 different directions, and just as they're about to fall again, they're grabbed out of the air by 3 Korean kittens and trapezed off to one of the balconies. This madness goes on and on and on. But nobody seems to notice. The gambling action runs 24 hours a day on the main floor, and the circus never ends. Meanwhile, in all the upstairs balconies, the customers are being hustled by every conceivable kind of bizarre shuck. All kinds of funhouse-type booths. Shoot the pasties off the nipples of a 10-foot bull dyke with a cotton candy goat. Stand in front of this fantastic machine, my friend, and for just 99 cents your likeness will appear 200 feet tall on a screen above downtown Las Vegas. 99 cents more for a voice message. Say whatever you want, fella. They'll hear you. Don't worry about that. Remember, you'll be 200 feet tall. Jesus Christ. I could see myself lying in bed in the Mint Hotel, half asleep, and staring idly out of the window when suddenly a vicious Nazi drunkard appears 200 feet tall in the midnight sky, screaming gibberish at the world. Woodstock über alles! We'll close the drapes tonight. A thing like that could send a drug person careening around the room like a ping-pong ball. Hallucinations are bad enough, but after a while you learn to cope with things like seeing your dead grandmother crawling up your leg with a knife in her teeth. Most acid fanciers can handle this sort of thing. But nobody can handle that other trip. The possibility that any freak with a $1.98 can walk into the circus and suddenly appear in the sky over downtown Las Vegas 12 times the size of God, howling anything that comes into his head. No, this is not a good town for psychedelic drugs. Reality itself is too twisted. Good mescaline comes on slow. The first hour is all waiting. Then about halfway through the second hour, you start cursing the creep who burned you because nothing is happening. And then, zang! Fiendish intensity, strange glow and vibrations, a very heavy gig in a place like the Circus. I hate to say this, said my attorney as we sat down at the merry-go-round bar on the second balcony, but this place is getting to me. I think I'm getting the fear. Nonsense, I said. We came out here to find the American dream, and now that we're right in the vortex, you want to quit. I grabbed his bicep and squeezed. You must realize, I said, we've found the main nerve. I know, he said. That's what gives me the fear. The ether was wearing off. The acid was long gone, but the mescaline was running strong. We were sitting in a small, round, gold formica table moving in orbit around the bartender. Look over there, I said. 2 women are fucking a polar bear. Please, he said, don't tell me those things, not now. He signaled the waitress for 2 more wild turkeys. This is my last drink, he said. How much money can you lend me? Not much, I said. Why? Well, I have to go, he said. Go? Yes, I have to go. Leave the country. Tonight. Calm down, I said. You'll be straight in a few hours. No, he said. This is serious. George Metzi was serious, I said, and you see what they did to him. Don't fuck around, he shouted. 1 more hour in this town and I'll kill somebody. I could see he was on the edge, that fearful intensity that comes at the peak of a mescaline seizure. Okay, I said. I'll lend you some money. Let's go outside and see how much we have left. Can we make it? He said. Well, that depends on how many people you fuck with between here and the door. You want to leave quietly. I want to leave fast, he said. Okay, let's pay this bill, get up, and very slowly we're both out of our heads. This is going to be a long walk. I waved at the waitress for a bill. She came over, looking bored, and my attorney stood up. Do they pay you to screw that bear? He asked her. What? He's kidding, I said, stepping between him. Come on, Doc, let's go downstairs and gamble. I got him as far as the edge of the bar, the rim of the merry-go-round, but he refused to get off until it stopped turning. It's never going to stop, I said. It's not ever going to stop. I stepped off and turned around to wait for him, but he wouldn't move, and before we could reach out and pull him, he was carried away. Don't move, I shouted. You'll come around. His eyes were staring blindly ahead, squinting with fear and confusion, but he didn't move a muscle until he made the whole circle. I waited until he was almost in front of me, and then I reached out to grab him, but he jumped back and went round the circle again. Now this made me nervous. I felt on the verge of a freak-out. The bartender seemed to be watching us. Carson City, I thought. 20 fucking years. I stepped on the merry-go-round and hurried around the bar, approaching my attorney on his blind side. And when we came to the right spot, I pushed him off. He staggered into the aisle and uttered a hellish scream as he lost his balance and went down, thrashing into the crowd. Rolling like a log, then up again in a flash, fists clenched, looking for somebody to hit. I approached him with my hands in the air, trying to smile. You fell, I said. Let's go. By this time, people were watching us, but the fool wouldn't move, and I knew what would happen if I grabbed him. Okay, I said. You stay here and go to jail. I'm leaving. And I started walking fast towards the stairs, ignoring him. This moved him. Did you see that? He said as he caught up with me. Some son of a bitch kicked me in the back. Well, probably the bartender, I said. He wanted to stomp you for what you said to the waitress. Good God, let's get out of here. Where's the elevator? Don't go near the elevator, I said. That's just what they want us to do. Trap us in a steel box and take us down to the basement. I looked over my shoulder, but nobody was following. Don't run, I said. They'd like an excuse to shoot us. He nodded, seeming to understand. We walked fast along the big indoor midway, shooting galleries, tattoo parlors, money changers, cotton candy booths, then out through the bank of glass doors and across the grass, downhill to the parking lot where the red shark waited. You drive, he said. I think there's something wrong with me. All right, guys, that ends day 5. I hope day 6 of Fear and Loathing. It's just getting good. My favorite chapters are in the offing. See you tomorrow. Peace out.